Okay, but it was all about trust. They didn't trust the coalition to run the economy, to run their economy. And so from that point of view, it is what you do to rebuild trust. And again, even with the dispute you've had in recent times with the National Party, it seems as though the two parties and even their individual policies seem to be at odds, and that doesn't engender that trust.
Well, we do have a coalition agreement, and so we are absolutely united, Ross. And look, if you're going to have a debate between the coalition parties, immediately after an election is the time to do it. But indeed, there was an agreement signed and sealed. We are, as a united force, going to be taking the government on. And I tell you how we build trust. We've got to go back to where it all began. Where it all began for us was with a common set of values. And those values are all around opportunity, freedom, making sure that we believe in equality, a fair go for all, a belief that with effort comes reward, that with rights come commensurate responsibilities. These are the things that we need to anchor to so that we can formulate policy that has a very clear line of sight to a belief system. Because I believe that liberal values, Ross, are Australian values. Because we believe in the individual, we believe in the family, in the community. We believe in the enterprise and in the entrepreneur. And the more we can anchor to those values and who we are fighting for, I believe we can rebuild trust with the Australian people. Okay. Australia needs us to do so.
But in my view, the coalition took some very anti-liberal policies to the last election, like trying to bust up supermarkets or insurance companies. They're not liberal values, busting up companies, because sure, you don't want too much market power, but there was no evidence of that. And yet there were still these policies to bust up business.
So look, again, we are reviewing a lot of policies. Some policies we have already agreed with the National Party that there is an in-principle approach to take forward. I think the one that most people do look at, Ross, is the fact that we oppose tax cuts. And I think that probably is the clearest example of something that was not consistent with our values as a party. And again, we've got to put our hand up and own that and say, well, we took the wrong turn there. And as we move forward, we have to anchor to our values. That's what we'll be doing as we're moving forward.
So can I ask you, are the Liberals still the party of business, of smaller government, of lower taxes? Are they the aspirations that you spoke about earlier? Are they still the aspirations of the Liberal Party, of this coalition?
100%, Ross, because we believe if you're going to look after the individual, you're going to look after the family, then there's a role for government, don't get me wrong there, but Labor, their approach is to put government at the centre. That's not our approach. Our approach is to put the individual at the centre. Allow the individual to have aspiration. Now, that aspiration might manifest itself for a lot of people in enterprise, in starting their own business, in chasing down a new idea, in R&D, in putting a buck into an investment. That's what we encourage. That is quintessential Liberal policy. And that's the approach we'll be taking through this term of government as we formulate our policies moving forward and as we hold the Albanese government to account.
Okay, so the anti-business attitude of the government, because there is a broad view that this government has been anti-business, and what it was alarmed by was the coalition was going down the same route. They were really concerned about industrial relations changes, about the lack of progressive tax policy in Australia that promoted business, of the energy policy in Australia. They're the three key issues. The question is now where the coalition lands on each of those issues.
And we'll be formulating those policies over time, Ross. We'll take our time to do it. But you're right, and I think we're seeing that in the national account figures that came through. I mean, we are in a race here. This is a competition internationally. We have to attract investment into Australia. But if you look at taxation, if you look at industrial relations, if you look at energy, if you look at regulations, approvals, we have a suite of policies right now in Australia by the Albanese government, which is actually sending all the wrong signals to investors. Not just international investors, but investors here in Australia. And again, this is coming through in the figures. And we know, my background is certainly a lot of international business. We know that internationally, Australia is developing a reputation as a high sovereign risk country in particular sectors. We saw that in the last term of government with gas and with coal. We're seeing it already in the last few weeks, the way the government is doubling down on unrealised capital gains. I've seen videos flying around coming from the US talking again about Australia as a sovereign risk for cryptocurrencies and the like, because they're looking at Australia saying, what is this? This is a government that intervenes in everything. They can't get their house in order, so clearly now, through this super tax, they're going after the savings of their own citizens. And to introduce something as perversive, as dangerous, as a tax on unrealised capital gains, that sends all the wrong signals to investors in Australia and internationally.
And of course, they're going to get that through with the support of the Greens. So the question for the coalition is indeed when you play with the government and when you don't, because when you don't play with the government, they're going to go with Greens, and that could influence policy as well.
And Ross, what we heard only the week that's been from the Treasurer is he has every intention just to keep on going. He doesn't want to deal with the coalition. He was out there waiting to go into the warm embrace with the Greens. They are effectively wanting to turn what has been a saving scheme for the individual into a revenue scheme for government. They know they're not going to get that from the coalition. We will fight this every step of the way, but they will get it from the Greens. There's no doubt about that. And over time, we'll continue to see Australia becoming poorer, weaker, and more dependent on foreign supply chains. That's the inevitable consequence of what Labor's doing right now.
So, given that situation, does it mean that really now green economic policy, because the Greens' economic policy pre-election was pretty much out there, that you are concerned that the Albanese government really now has free rein in our parliament? They'll dress it up as tax reform, but in reality, it's going to be trying to take almost the class wars and taking a bigger chunk out of wealthy Australians and out of businesses.
Yeah, you know, Ross, I'm not sure if it really is class warfare. I think Labor wants to sell it like that. I mean, Labor wants to go around telling the Australian people that their new super tax is all about, you know, taking on the fat cats with their multi-million-dollar portfolios, taking money from the wealthy, and that will help fund the good deeds of the government. That's not the case at all. I mean, the fact that it's looking at unrealised capital gains and it's not indexed in particular means everyday Australians are going to cop this. This isn't class warfare stuff. This is Labor going after everybody they can. We are going to see young Australians in everyday jobs, tradies, nurses, teachers, you name them. Over time, they will be hurt by Labor's tax. So they'll dress it up as class warfare in the tradition of old Labor. But in truth, they are going after everybody on this, which is why we have to fight it. This will hurt Australians. And the only reason they're doing it is they've lost all discipline on fiscal responsibility, debt deficits going out of control, and they've got no ambition for the Australian economy. We heard it last week from the Treasurer. After the national accounts came out, 0.2% growth in the quarter? Seriously? Lower than last time? You know, at a yearly basis, it's running less than half of the long-run average of growth, and the Treasurer is happy about that. No ambition for growth of the Australian economy. And when you have no ambition and you overspend, you have no choice but to go after the earnings, the money of your own citizens. And that's what this super tax does.
Okay,
and
so just a quick one there.
This is just the start. This is their priority.
Just a quick one there. You talk about the anaemic growth, and it is anaemic. There's no doubt about that. Productivity is going backwards. I know you're not going to give the Treasurer too many hints along the way, but if you were in a position of power, what are the ways to actually strike some sort of better growth than what Australia needs? That's the thing that's needed for our economy right now, is stronger economic growth.
Yeah, it is strong economic growth, and I think the key thing here is you need to improve productivity. You need to, in order to get more investment in, it is those things I mentioned before. It is IR, it is energy, it is an ability, by the way, to embrace new technologies. It's dealing with regulation. It's recognising the role for enterprise and basically saying you need to get your settings right. Instead, what Labor's view is government knows best. Therefore, it's going to have a very strong insertion of itself in everything. Well, it's not working. It's coming through the numbers. It is not working. So they've been in the driver's seat now, Labor, for over 3 years, Ross. We are stuck in the slow lane and businesses are not investing. So there's no hope of us going anywhere fast soon. It's not going to happen. The Australian people know it because of what they're doing with their savings. They know they need to put away a buffer. The only area of uptick in consumer spending is because energy prices are going up, rent prices are going up. And so this is the problem we have. And again, so what's driving this vehicle? What's pushing Australia forward? Well, it's just other people coming along and pushing the car from behind. It's population growth. That's the only thing that's really keeping this economy afloat. And so this government has no ambition for the Australian economy. And there are a suite of levers that need to be pulled. Our job as a coalition, one, we'll hold them to account. But two, we'll be formulating a compelling set of policies, carefully calibrated to pull certain levers in different ways. So yes, we do restore fiscal responsibility, but we are ambitious for the Australian economy.
Okay, one final one for you as well. You were the chair of the parliamentary inquiry into nuclear energy. You are a pro-nuclear politician. Tell me this, given the results of the election, is the coalition still going to propose that Australia should have a nuclear future?
We've already made it very clear, actually, Ross, that we believe that, for starters, the moratorium needs to be lifted. Now, over time, with our new Shadow Minister, Dan Tehan, who will do a fantastic job, a new energy policy will be formulated. But my personal views on nuclear energy have not changed at all.
Ted O'Brien, good to chat to you today. We'll do it again soon. Many thanks for your time.
Look forward to it. Thanks very much, Ross.